Welcome, everybody, to Edge of the Rabbit Hole. We have a fantastic show coming up for you tonight. The Paranormal Couple, Satori Hawes and Cody DesBiens, coming up next. Welcome back, everybody, to Edge of the Rabbit Hole. I'm author and researcher Mike Ricksecker. With me, as always, my co-hostess, Victoria Munday. And down in the chat room, Alina, moderating the chat, taking your questions. We have a fantastic show coming up for you tonight. The Paranormal Couple is with us in the house. Satori Hawes and Cody DesBiens. You probably recognize them from Ghost Nation. They've been on several episodes there. Of course, Satori is known for, she's Jason Hawes' daughter, so everybody knows Jason, which is absolutely fantastic. And Cody is a fantastic paranormal investigator in his own right. So this is a real treat to have them both on. Something I'm really interested in talking with them both about is the next generation of paranormal investigations. They're the new crowd coming in when we are gone. They're going to have to take over for all of us, which is great. You guys could probably comment on this, because one of the things that I like to talk about is that we're here during our time gaining all this knowledge, and I think that one of the things that we're supposed to do is pass it on to the next generation, and hopefully the next generation picks up that mantle and keeps it going. So you guys are that next generation. So tell us, what do we have to look forward to from you guys when it comes to investigating the paranormal?
Well, I would love to see the new generation, at least my opinion. I would like to see the new generation pay a lot more attention to actually documenting as much as they can. I mean, unfortunately, we've seen this kind of turn, and I think it has to do with a lot of the pop culture side of the paranormal, where most of the newer generation is thrill-seeking the paranormal and not really diving in deep into research and data logging and things like that. So at least with us, we really try to push that side of things because, if this field is going to move forward at all from where it is right now, we need to make sure that we're kind of all on the same page, at least to a point, about documenting everything and recording everything, because that seems to be something that not a lot of people are paying attention to right now.
And a lot of people, especially the younger generations, and I think this has to do with social media and horror movies and things like that, are thinking that the paranormal is all negative, all bad, everything's, demonic, and there's always a bad side to it. Yes, there is. But we've kind of dedicated our time now because we've been conditioned to, see both sides and to kind of, really document the paranormal activity in general. And we've spent so much time trying to educate people that not everything is negative. And that's just what we've really spent our time on. And we hope the new generation kind of picks up on that, trying to find the real answers instead of becoming very skittish and scared of the paranormal.
Yeah, that's great that you guys have that sort of perspective, but you both have been in the field for quite a while, and you make some very fantastic points there. Pop culture, I think as much as it's helped people to open up and realize, okay, that people have had these experiences, you're right, a lot of people are going down, it's more negative. I think in most cases, we're actually dealing with human spirits. We're dealing with people that have passed away and are still lingering here on Earth. So, with your research, how do you handle that where you're at a location and you're dealing with somebody's grandmother?
It can absolutely be, a very emotional and touchy subject for sure, because, like you said, you're dealing with somebody who was alive, and you're most likely dealing with their family members in most cases. If not their family members, then somebody that once lived in the house or at the location at one point in time. So the whole situation can be very touchy, and at least with Satori and myself, we definitely balance each other off when it comes to that point of view. I mean, she's very much the people person, while I'm more of the technical one.
He's saying I talk a lot.
She does, and that's a good thing. That's a great thing. So she's really good at approaching that type of situation, and respect is something that I think everybody should pay attention to when they're going into these types of locations. We've seen more provoking these days, which is something that we just don't follow that route. because like we mentioned that, these were once people, and you always want to make a good first impression when you're meeting somebody new. So why would you yell at them, the first time you're meeting them, which doesn't make sense. So we absolutely like to take a much more sensitive, unbiased, approach with using common sense, of course.
We've only dealt with maybe one or two cases where we've had to contact somebody in specific religious, organizations to bring into these homes, depending on what these people believe in, because we have felt that it may be not even a demonic or inhuman spirit, but just something that isn't very nice, something that is kind of feeding off of negative energy in that environment. But most of the time, if there is something that we can get evidence to suggest that there is a haunting going on, it's just people. It really is just people, or some sort of record of energy that just keeps passing through the house, like a residual haunting.
Right. And we found that, we have to remember that we're the ones leaving the house at night, and the family has to live in the house and stay there. So we found that, just sitting down around the kitchen table and talking to them and just answering some questions like we're doing right now really calms the situation down. And 9 times out of 10, that kind of clears everything up as far as being scared goes, because usually if somebody is scared, they're scared of something that they don't know the answer to. They're scared of the unknown. So as soon as you start putting some insight into what they may be experiencing, it seems like it calms the situation down a lot. Just telling them that, listen, this is your grandmother that passed away, and it may seem scary that, a glass is, trying to move or slide across the counter, but she's trying to get your attention. She's probably been trying to talk to you, and unfortunately you haven't been able to hear her because, we found that it's hard for us to hear when spirit's talking to us. So she's trying to do something else to try getting your attention. And it may seem scary, but in reality, it's just them trying to reach out.
You're absolutely right. Yeah, I was I'm sorry, Mac. I was in a basement of a haunted, abandoned hotel thingy. And you could tell somebody was down there, and I can't even imagine how many people have gone down there and said, can you make it go to the green light? Can you make it go to the red light? I mean, if I was a ghost, I would say, and I would be right out of there. But we were joking and laughing, and we were, being goofy down there. And as we were laughing and joking, the little K2 meter started lighting up. I'm like, well, this is actually a person, why wouldn't they retain their sense of humor? So you're absolutely right. Just treat them like they're alive, basically, but without a body. But
agree.
Yeah, and you had also made a great point within there that just because it's something that's negative, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's demonic. There are people that were jerks in life, and you deal with them when they're in the afterlife as well. So, what's your methodology? Do you do anything different as far as trying to determine who or what these hauntings may be?
So, all right. So let me tell you something strange. So,
all right,
we're going to dive down that rabbit hole.
Here we go.
So, I've been doing this for probably about 10 years now. I started, at an early age because I had an experience, and I've always been interested ever since I had that experience. So I've been doing this for a while now, and I guess my results while investigating were like most other investigators. We always compare it to fishing in that pond with like 2 or 3 fish, and you only get a bite once in a while. And that's the way it was for a long time until I started working with Satori. So I was on the TAPS team before Satori decided that she wanted to join. And when she did join, we of course started getting paired up together all the time. And not only us, but the other teammates around us on the TAPS team started noticing that when we would work together, it seems like the results we would get would kind of heighten up a little bit. It seems like the activity would heighten up a bit. We'd get more results, footsteps and stuff like that, which was strange because this is something I had never experienced before. So we started experimenting more with it, and of course we started dating and spending a lot more time together. And in my opinion, I think we've all experienced on investigations. I think that the living people that you're with can implement your results big time. I mean, I think everybody's living energy has a big effect on the amount of results you get. And likewise, I think when certain energies meet, I think sometimes it's like flipping on that light switch, and the light shines just a little bit brighter and kind of draws this stuff in. So the more we experimented with this stuff and really worked together. We started holding hands, and that felt like that it really brought things up, and it's definitely something you have to experience in person. But it's definitely been a technique that we've used, and it seems like it really helps. I mean, Satori's definitely opened me up more to the metaphysical side of the paranormal and stuff like that. And I think that maybe that's something people should be paying a lot more attention to, your own senses, and just trying to use yourself and really put yourself out there when you're investigating this type of thing.
You're the best tool in the paranormal toolkit. You really are. Your senses are the best tool in the toolkit.
Yeah, and I love that, because that's something that I always say whenever I'm on, shows like this and I'm sitting in your seat, is that, your own body is your best tool. And then the question always comes up, no. Well, what physical tools? Like your body, your physical body. So that's great that you guys bring that up, and that even at your young age, you already have that insight. And I find it interesting that, so you guys, if you were to investigate separately, you would have different experiences possibly than if you were actually together?
Yes,
we barely got anything apart, but when we're together, it's just for some reason we've tested this with different people in different environments, and it seems like whenever we are together and only together, that's when the activity kind of really starts to act up. And again, it's like a battery for some reason. If multiple people, it's just like if you were investigating with someone and you get the most activity you've ever gotten in your entire life, and it just keeps consistently happening. So I don't know how it works, but it does.
Yeah, no idea how it works. And of course, we've hosted some public investigations, where people come in, and usually it's the benefit of historical society or something like that. And we found that, it depends on the group of people that we have that night, that sometimes the activity can be either more, prevalent in the room, in the location. And then if we get another group in the next week, and it kind of seems off. I mean, if you ever walked, well, how about this? You're in your house, and you think the phone's going to ring, and then all of a sudden it rings, and you're like, wow, I knew that was going to ring. I knew that was going to happen. You kind of have that feeling, that knowing that something was going on, the intuition. And I think it's the same way with living people. I mean, that whole energy, that whole vibe of a room can affect the results you get. And I think, when certain people meet, it can just make that energy turn that light switch on.
That's it, exactly, because it's all about the vibration. And like you said, two people get together and they have they're in sync, they vibe together, their energy is raised up higher. Why wouldn't that attract somebody? Seriously, when I'm a ghost, I'm not going to be hanging around these I can't think of anything nice to say. Hold on. Pay to play people who want to provoke, and because I don't think the paranormal is there for our fun. There's a reason why they're there. I mean, they need some validation, and they need recognition. Yeah, totally agree.
I agree.
So we have a good question down here from the chat room from Robert Hanna.
Great.
Do Satori and Cody think that shows like giving people misconceptions on the paranormal, like everything is negative? So it's kind of in that same vein, but I guess from the pop culture side of it, with a number of the different television shows, are there some misconceptions? Because there are a large variety of different shows out there that deal with the paranormal, but are some of them giving some misconceptions about negativity that's out there?
Yes, there are definitely some shows, some group, even just some paranormal groups in general that try to, give me $100 and I'll get the spirit out of your house because it's a demon, or we're going into this home and I feel like a demon's going to attack me. Things like that. It's just kind of brainwashing people to believe that everything is negative and you need to get an exorcism as soon as possible because you may be dealing with something. And it's like I guess developing fear in everybody that doesn't understand the paranormal from the outside looking in. It's just kind of like they dive in, and all these paranormal groups and certain shows and YouTube people and all that are just kind of jumping on that and saying, hey, you should be afraid of everything.
Well, yeah. Well, fear sells for sure.
It's
at
for
least
their own personal gain, though.
Right. That's unfortunate too. And, everybody does things differently. Everybody has their own way of doing things. And we're not, without bringing religion into this too much. I mean, everybody, some investigators base their practices on their religious views, which is okay. And of course, a lot of religions think that anything involving the supernatural realm is negative. So we have to be respectful on that point. But there's absolutely people that are out there, just like Satori said,
that don't know anything about these religions.
That's the majority.
And don't know, they're not educated in these religions and how to go about this type of situation. And they just kind of throw out the fear factor of it all. Right.
Oh, I agree. And as far as the television shows go, on that sense, like I said, everybody has their own way of doing things, of course. And I don't know if it's hypocritical that we're involved with a TV show, but I will state, and I'm not trying to speak for Satori, but I will state that any show that we've done, of course, we've agreed to do it because there's been no script or anything like that. We've been able to given the green light to do what we do best and do it our own way. And, we're not trying to scare anybody. The results are what it is. If there's nothing there, there's nothing there. And, it just is what it is. And we wouldn't agree to do a television show if it was anything but that. I mean, we don't want anybody controlling ourselves. Thankfully, with Ghost Nation, Satori's dad was the one in charge of it all. I mean, he was the one who called the shots and was able to, control it. Nobody was controlling us. So we just got to do our own thing. And I think that's the way it should be done. But unfortunately, there are some shows that's not the way it's done.
Right. And in that same vein, and Satori, you've been around this your whole life. Cody, you said that you've been involved for 10 years. You've both been on television shows. How have you seen this evolve? For the good or for the not so good over all this time?
Well, it's definitely different than what it started out to be, for sure. When this first started out, as far as teams going into locations on a regular basis, episodic basis, it's definitely changed. The whole approach has changed for the most part with some of the new shows coming out. And there is a lot more fear that is put into a good majority of the shows. And, that's because, like I said, fear sells, and people want to see that emotional aspect of people getting scared or just emotional in general of drama and stuff like that. More reality and less, digging into investigating and documenting everything, and more of that thrill-seeking aspect that I was mentioning earlier.
What I do like about this, though, is the fact that, the paranormal has not been seen as something that's too much to talk about, too touchy of a topic, since it kind of came into pop culture and media and stuff like that. Because I remember being young and just seeing my dad go off to work, and he was helping people. And this was in the early days of Ghost Hunters. I was very young. I kind of never knew anything else but the paranormal, and I was always open to it. I just saw him going to work and helping people, and I knew it was doing something to help them both psychologically, physically in their homes. It just made them feel better. When the show started coming out and about and everybody started watching it did create a movement where people were like, I can talk about this in public now. If I'm experiencing something, I can tell someone about it and not fear that I'm being crazy, because they're probably watching the same shows I am, and now I don't feel so alone. That's what I like. The show is pushing out there in that sense. I do feel it has kind of turned into a fear factor, though.
Yeah, and I love that point, because I think that is something. I mean, people have a lot of different opinions about the shows, but I think that is something that the television shows have really helped with, is creating that conversation and being out there for the public to view, and like you just said, for people to watch it and say, hey, there are other people that have had these same experiences. I'm not alone. I think the same thing, a few years beforehand, before the shows really started coming out, when the World Wide Web started becoming more public, the same thing happened. People were finding groups on different forums and websites and things like that, and realizing, hey, we're not alone, which is great. And I guess where I want to take that is, this idea of helping people, of the aspect of helping those that need help or just need more information. Even though, like you were saying, both of you were saying, that there is that fear factor that's coming into it. The people want the jump scares and things like that. How do we turn that? Again, we kind of started this with you guys in the next generation. How do we turn the conversation back toward more, helping people, getting information out there rather than the whole jump scare aspect?
Well, I think we need to start promoting that on a format that the new generation is paying attention to. So YouTube and TikTok. I mean, right now it's being. I mean, the majority of that is the thrill-seeking paranormal investigators, which we're friends with a lot of them, and that's okay. If that's your thing, that's okay. But bringing that into a client's home is a totally different story, because that's just not the place for that. So at least what we do when we approach a situation on Facebook or TikTok or something like that, we always answer our questions like we're doing right now, and hopefully it'll gain some traction if enough people start doing it. I mean, we have had some investigators that are just starting out come to us for advice, and we always encourage that. We always have our inboxes open and things like that. And I think we just have to approach the new audience in something that they're paying attention to. I mean, television is great, but the new audience right now seems to be paying attention to internet and streaming
and apps and things like that.
So I think that's the way we need to start broadcasting out. It's not going to happen overnight for sure. I think it's definitely going to take a long time for sure. But I mean, nothing happens overnight. But I think if you're going to gain traction like that, that would be the way to do it, at least in my opinion.
And you said exactly what I was going to say. It's taken a lot of work. I mean, we've sat on virtual platforms and messaged people even after doing live streams and such, and because they've been terrified because of the things they have seen online and the things that they grew up thinking, and we've had to sit with them and say, okay, tell us why you think this. We're not going to tear down your belief system 100% because we don't know what is out there. We don't know the answer. This is all just based off of theories. It would be ignorant of us to say we know the answer to everything. So tell us why you think this, and let us try to maybe figure out a way to calm you down about the situation, come up with new theories with you that you may want to follow that kind of branch off from what you believe in, something that's more positive than what this media is showing you now. And it's helped quite a few people. Right, absolutely. We've definitely had people that come into live streams, and I don't want to say we change their beliefs, but definitely give them a different point of view. It's one drop into the cup of water, you know what I mean? But it all adds up over time, hopefully. And, the more we do that, and, maybe they'll go and tell some people, the more things will hopefully kind of shift in the right direction that we need it to be in,
That's very true. Because I'm down here in the South, the good old Bible Belt, Anyway, this is part of my culture. This is something everybody does down here. But I think, like you said, the YouTube and TikTok and all those kind of not celebrity type forums, you're seeing the average person doing it now. And I think it's helping us more and more. Maybe, Mr. $1 Million Celebrity is not the only one who can go and do this. Maybe Jane down the street can help you. And, there's reasons, I guess, with communities that could do this. I mean, it doesn't have to be Mr. Celebrity. It could be anybody.
Agreed.
Again, 100%. We've investigated with children. I mean, we don't promote children investigating ourselves. That's just not what we do. But the teenagers, the kind of curious when they're starting to get into this topic, and they've kind of come on our path. And they've asked us questions and been like, can you stand with me? Can we do an EVP session right now, just where we are, and kind of describe this to me? And I think it's really helped us to kind of shed worry from the younger kids, right. Even younger than us. Yeah. I know.
And I look at it from the point of view, like when I had my experience, I mean, I was 8 years old, and, I just wanted somebody so bad to talk to about investigating. And, of course with the TV shows that were coming out, of course, I knew that it was a thing that people did, and I just wanted to talk to somebody who did that, and get their opinion on stuff and hold the equipment, without spending thousands of dollars, because obviously I didn't have that when I was 8 or 9 years old. And I just wanted to learn about it. Especially, I mean, even when I was about 15 or 16, I just, I started emailing all the different teams in my area, and it was just always one word answers, no, or no, you're too young. And all I wanted to do, I mean, I know bringing a teenager into a client house or something like that is I mean, we definitely wouldn't do that.
Exactly. That's
but
what
just talking to them and just saying, listen, if you have any questions, I'm here to answer them. If you want to look at a recorder and see how it works, or a night vision camera, a full spectrum camera, you want to know the ins and outs of it, then let's meet up sometime. Come to one of our library things or whatever, and we'll show you what's going on with it. Just that what's the word I'm looking for? Just that way where people can reach out, and that door, I guess, is the right word. That door that people can open and have somebody to answer their questions. You know what I mean?
We want to be the people for these children and these younger generations that, our generation may not have had growing up trying to learn about this safely. So that's what we're really trying to do. Anybody that may want more education on the subject, we'll give it our best shot, is what we're saying.
Yeah, you've taken the stigma out of it. Because I grew up seeing, the first thing I saw was my grandfather when he passed when I was 7. And
Wow.
We didn't talk about that, But when my mom died, my daughter was 3, and I said, well, okay, if you see grandma, let me know. Tell her I said, hey. And she goes, oh, I saw her yesterday. I'm like, well, why don't you tell me? I mean, so, it's very matter of fact with us now. She still kind of go, Mom does what? But her friends are all having experiences and everything. And she's like, oh, yeah, my mom can take care of that for you. And, so it's just like, I'm going to the grocery store now. It's just a matter of fact.
That's so good. I'm so glad. And it's really great because these children are starting to open up, at younger ages than we could have when we were younger, because it was not a subject to be talked about. And now children can just go over and be like, I'm seeing great grandma in the next room and I want to figure out how to talk to her and have her talk to me back. And it's nice that they have those outlets now. It really is.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fantastic because, like Victoria was saying, when she and I were kids, there weren't even the television shows. There was no information, there's no internet, and yeah, if you tried to talk to somebody, it was either you didn't talk about it or you're kind of laughed at if you believed in ghosts or whatever.
Oh yeah.
So that's great that we have this now. That children that have these experiences, because my first significant experience was when I was about 8 years old. So it seems like we all kind of have that in common, but there was nobody to talk to. My parents were like, you just had a bad dream or whatever.
Did they tell you it was your imagination all the time?
Well, yeah, that's pretty much what you got. It was your imagination, or you've been watching too much Scooby-Doo.
Zoinks.
But at some point, because you're probably not going to take a 7 or 8 year old on a paranormal investigation. You'll talk to them and try to give them some answers and that sort of thing. But like my daughter, she investigated with me a little bit when she was 16. But where do you think is a good age for a young, interested adolescent to start investigating? That it's not too young, but they're now gaining that interest. Where is about that age, you think?
Well, I think it depends on the situation and the location, of course. I think if a child is interested in this type of field, I think the first step is bringing them to like the local legend tripping places that have these legends of hauntings and public places that you can go to investigate this type of thing.
Lighter things, with supervision, lots of supervision.
Absolutely, and usually if a child is interested in the investigation portion of it, usually their parent or somebody these days is involved already in the field, and that's where they've learned it from. As far as the investigation portion of it, having experience is a totally different point of view, because usually they're either scared of it or they're interested in learning about what they had seen, and not so much the investigation portion of it until they get older and figure out that this is something that people are doing. So definitely start out with the local places, because every state has at least 10, at least, and check out those places, and and as they get older, and it seems like most teams and stuff like that
don't usually allow until young adult with supervision, or 18 or older.
Old, yeah. Thankfully, when I was 16, 17, I was able to find a group that was willing to teach me about the equipment, so and about investigating and how to do an EVP session, and all of that stuff, which I was extremely thankful for, because like I said, I had emailed at least 5 or 6 teams in the area, and they all said no. So definitely, if you get to that age and you're still interested in this type of thing, reach out to a team or somebody that's already established and has been doing it for a while, has all of the gear or whatever, and so you don't have to purchase it, and then 6 months down the road you're stuck with it and you don't want to do paranormal anymore and you don't know what to do with it and you've wasted all your money. So go to people that have been doing this for a while, and hopefully. Well, just say, listen, I don't want to be a part of your team right now. Just show me the stuff. Just show me what to do, and just give me some words of advice, and tell me what you do on your investigations. And I think that would work out well if more teams did that.
I think if we were to just answer that question very bluntly, we'd say, anything, you can talk about it. You can start bringing up the paranormal and really talking about beliefs and how it works at any age. At any age, you can talk about it. I think once you start getting into, young adults, 17-ish with supervision, you can start to go to these locations, public locations at that teen age. I don't really feel comfortable bringing, let's say, anybody under 18 on a serious investigation with a client that may be dealing with something that they feel is negative. It's a lot for somebody to take in their first time. So I think maybe wait until they're an adult for those more, serious investigations.
Yeah.
One thing we're forgetting is you don't always have to do this at night. Because we have so many experiences here during the day, and we've had things that happen. I'll just look at my daughter and go, hey, well, that happened, didn't it? Yeah. And then it's like, we're not running and screaming from the house or anything, but just acknowledge it happened and we move on.
Probably it depends. Some children are very mature. Some children are very mature about this topic. So it really depends, like Cody said.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I like your idea of, start them off with legend tripping. With my parents, it wasn't really so much legend tripping. It was, we were going to historic locations like Gettysburg, Williamsburg, all stuff like that. So it was more of a historic tour, but they had their little ghost stories there too. Our friend Ricky Rocket, who we had on some time ago, you watch his YouTube channels. He's taking his kids out on legend tripping all the time. Again, kind of like you were saying, during the day, is to a lighter place that has some history, and we're just checking out some of the story sort of thing. So I really like that advice. Something I do want to kind of switch gears to here is you guys have this haunted museum, and you have some of the objects back behind you. And I do have one of the, here we go. So the tickets are on sale now for the Paranormal Couples Haunted Museum, the Traveling Exhibition. I'm sorry. So tell us about this haunted museum.
So the whole museum kind of started by accident. I mean, the first thing that I was ever given was this large painting of Christ. It belonged to my mom's side of the family, been passed down generation to generation. It belonged to my great grandfather, originated from Italy, and grew up in a Catholic household. So my grandparents were very definitely paranormal was a touchy subject for sure. And but there was this one story that my grandfather would always tell me about this painting of Christ, and he inherited it from his father, and they would always pray to it every single night before bed. And when my great grandfather was on his deathbed, he was praying to this painting of Christ, and claimed that this painting kind of came alive and started talking to him and telling him that everything was going to be okay, because I guess he was scared to die. And this painting really kind of calmed him down, and he was okay after this whole experience. So, they didn't call it paranormal, but they would always say this, this very spiritual experience that happened with this painting. And apparently, my grandfather would always, in his last days, would always point up to it. And it was just that story always stuck in the back of my head. So now I have the painting. And that was really the first thing that I had. And I've always had an interest in objects that have, hold energy and people report moving on their own and things like that. And so, especially when Satori and myself, when the whole situation of the world started in 2020, the whole new life that we started dealing with, we really started pushing ourselves out on social media. And I had already acquired a good amount of objects from different cases that Taps had worked on, or I had worked on, or we had worked on. And we were always the ones that were, give it to Cody and Satori to take home if you guys don't want it. So we were always, the ones that were picked to do that. And the collection just kind of grew. And then when social media started,
yeah, we started social media, and we just kind of mentioned the collection, and that what we do is we don't believe in destroying these objects because it may make matters worse. So if you need to absolutely get rid of this object, we always give advice first on how to coexist with this object in your home, because we don't really want to take these things from you unless you feel that you have to get rid of them. We kind of went out about that and talked about it and tried educating people. And a lot of people came out of nowhere, and they started sending us messages, and we tried giving advice, and they were like, no, I need to get rid of this right now, or I fear that if I destroy it, it could make matters worse. So, we started coming out and saying, all right, well, if you feel the need to get rid of this object and you feel that there's no other way out of this, we promise to take care of this. We will meet you somewhere, pay for shipping, anything we have to do. We want to take care of this object, and if you ever want it back, you have the right to take this object back. It's not ours. We let you be the owner of this object, and we just take it off your hands so you feel safer in your own environment. So when people started sending us these objects, the collection really grew, and now we have over 300 objects in this museum.
Oh, wow.
And some of the craziest things you could ever think of that people have somehow obtained has been given to us. We have cursed objects from all different tribes around the world, objects supposedly used in religions that people did not know much about, and they kind of dabbled in, and they feared that intention, that negative intention, may be staying with them. We have lots of things.
We do. So we decided to, after talking with other collectors in the area, and we've become friends with a good majority of them around the country. They all encourage us to kind of get this together and bring it to the public in a way. And so we created this traveling exhibition where it's about 150 of the objects from the museum. It's a very immersive experience. Each section has its kind of own scenes and really gets you involved in the story. If you're not really into haunted objects, just the history that is inside of the exhibits is really amazing. And the stories, if you're into spooky stories and things like that, just reading the stories is really an interesting thing. And there's something for everybody if you're interested at all in the supernatural topic itself. So this is going to be traveling to different places, haunted locations around the country. Everything packed into a huge truck, and it goes to different haunted locations. And then we set up the objects and their exhibits inside of the location, and you can either just tour them. It's kind of like a big case study as well, because at every station, we give you a spot to write what you're feeling. And over time, we hope to collect a good amount of people's emotional opinions and see if there's a pattern over time. Maybe when somebody stands in front of a certain object, 90% of people feel happy. You know what I mean? So kind of doing this big case study, and at the same time sharing these people's stories, because a majority of the objects we have belong to somebody who was alive, and we know the person that it belonged to at one time. And it seems like they're just kind of checking in on that object after life. They're just kind of seeing where it is now, and just checking in on it. I mean, we have, like Satori said, over 300 things, and growing weekly. And we can probably count. And
some of them are behind you right now, right?
They are.
Some of them, yes.
Yeah, some of them are behind us.
Some of the ones that we don't necessarily, either we don't have to worry about possibly moving because they haven't, I'm trying to point to them. in some time. Sometimes they'll play music. We also have some objects that are in cases behind us because they're claimed to move and interact physically that we have even caught. So we kind of keep them behind us in case anybody else sees these objects. We've been known as, I think the funniest thing, a foster home for haunted objects is one of the funniest things that we have been called. I love it.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Cool.
We're going to have to go back through the footage later and see if anything's moved back there.
Yeah,
maybe.
absolutely.
Lots of voices, too. Lots of people get voices on our streams.
I was going to
that's
ask you,
interesting.
do you ever get on planes with them, and do you have to declare, hey, I have haunted objects? Do they let you on?
Now, we've never gotten on a plane with these haunted objects just because, some of them have very negative claims, whether they have proven themselves or not. Some of them we don't even bring because their claims are supposedly very terrifying. But we just don't really want to bring them on the plane anyway because, one, we fear how they may interact with people trying to put them on the plane. And two, we also fear that maybe, the energy will be off and we don't want to lose them.
Right, yeah. My main priority is to make sure they don't get broken. You know what I mean? And if I bring them on a plane, they kind of lose.
And how do you explain to a spirit that you broke their object on the plane because somebody threw the bag in the carrier?
Yeah,
you know what I
that's
mean?
why we got the truck.
We got a truck.
So you're not worried about crashing or anything. It's just you don't want the bobbleheads broken.
Exactly. Yeah, you don't want that. Yeah, I don't want that. Don't want the crash.
Okay.
So we have a good question down here from D. Santee. Do you think the haunted object's energy changes in your care, like the entity or whatever feels comforted or understood, and that's why they may behave themselves better with you?
Sure. Oh, absolutely. We've definitely noticed that when you bring, first of all, when you bring a new an object into a new environment, we've found that sometimes the claims of the object can change completely. We have had some objects that we've brought into the museum, and every object that comes in kind of goes into its own quarantine period that we call it. It goes away from the rest of the objects, and we just kind of observe it for a couple weeks and see if it's living up to the claims that have been given to it.
And slowly bring it here.
Right, and slowly put it into the rest of the museum. And we found that sometimes, an object won't act up at all. Sometimes it takes a few weeks, a few months. We had an object that it didn't do anything until about a year and a half later. But we've definitely noticed that they interact with each other. It seems like, I know it sounds kind of crazy, but it seems like they all feel like they're kind of protected now because there was with most of these objects there was a situation where they were going to get destroyed or broken or something like that or thrown away. And it definitely seems like they interact with each other. We had one situation, one quick story where we used to have this big wall of dolls because dolls is the thing that's in right now. Everybody thinks
Horror movies.
People like the dolls, yeah.
Right, yeah. So we get a doll at least every other week in the mail, and we used to have this big doll wall here. And probably, we have a top 10 list of objects that have lived up to their claims, and one of them is a doll, and we sit her on the top shelf over here
because we can't. Well, one. We can't really put her in a case because she somehow gets out of it.
Sounds crazy. But
sounds absolutely
crazy. We have security in her and everything, and we've captured clips of her moving. But we brought her in and put her on the shelf for the first time, and this whole wall of dolls was here, tons of dolls. And we leave the museum, come back, and all of the dolls' heads on this wall were turned away from that doll. Every single
180 degrees.
Oh, wow.
single head on the wall was turned away.
This happened 3 times because we fixed them and went up and came down and they kept switching. So we had to move them.
2 times. Yeah, it happened 2 or 3 times. And, we had to move the whole doll wall away and kind of put this one, in its own spot. Because they definitely interact with each other. Because most cases with these objects, they were living people, and maybe they just don't get along with each other sometimes.
And now, I obviously state that not all the objects in our museum are haunted. I mean, we are 100% sure about that. We've had objects that have never lived up to their claim. Whether they have proven their claim to the owner and maybe that spirit has stayed behind, we are not sure. But they are definitely not interacting in our museum, and we own up to that 100%. But we do give this spiel every time that an object does come in, negative or not. I kind of put my foot down and say, all right, we're bringing you into our home, into our domain. You're allowed to interact with the objects here. You're allowed to come and go as you please. Don't cause havoc anywhere else. negative or not, I say we're giving you a chance to be protected. So we hope that if we respect you, you give us the same respect in return. And we just kind of give them this whole rule book that we kind of throw and say, if you can, please stay kind to us. We respect you, respect us. That's all we ask. That's all we ask for. And it works. We've had objects that some of the claims are horrifying, and we give the same spiel every time. There are objects, we have paintings that are supposedly, if you look at them, you're supposed to die because of a cursed spirit attached to it. And I did the same thing there too. I looked at it and went, all right, we're putting our foot down. We're not doing any of this. And honestly, we have never had any negative interactions in our museum, which I am thankful for.
Yeah.
So there is a question down here, Mary Haygood. What is the strangest thing you have? So it's going to be that doll, right?
So yeah, that's definitely one of the strangest
most
ones.
Active. I guess some of the strangest things too. We do have objects, and we do that have been given to us for energy reasons. They feel that there's some sort of energy attached to it that have been owned from, serial killers or from situations of mass death. And we always say right after that we are not trying to promote or, glorify these killers or anybody that has caused this mass death situation. But if anything, we will have an in memory of all the victims that were involved in this. And the only reason that we have taken these objects on is because they believe that there is some sort of energy manipulation going on around these objects. And there are theories that, these objects do hold energy because of these situations. So those are some of the weirdest. We have pieces from,
Yeah, different like doomsday cults, like the Heaven's Gate cult and the Aum Shinrikyo cult in Tokyo. Those are probably strange because of the outrageous things that these groups of people were doing and believed in. But those are definitely strange and definitely raise some eyebrows when people see them.
We've been given things from funeral homes. We have, children's polio braces from the 1930s. I think another really strange object is that we've been given is a toe tag that somebody had found in their front lawn after mowing their lawn that was supposed to be on a body, but it apparently somehow got lost and ended up in their front yard. From a possible flood that may have happened years prior, where all the caskets got dislodged and started floating down the street, we believe is the only way that could have ended up there. Just really strange things like that.
Do you ever try and cleanse them or negate the energy, or do you just take them and say, hey, you behave?
Now, that is interesting. And a lot of people follow up with what is our religious belief? And we kind of say everything to that because there's so many different religions that believe the same thing overall. There's a good and evil, a place you go after death. So we are open to everything because, why would we just assume that one answer is the right answer? And we also want to make sure everybody feels comfortable in our museum. So what we do is we have different things. We have crosses and prayer cards. We have sage and crystals, which is something I personally enjoy using, herbs and crystals and such like that. We have a little bit of everything. And if somebody comes into our museum and tries to educate us about a new religion that they feel comfortable with having a piece of in the museum, we would do that 100%.
Right. And it's the same way with dealing with paranormal cases. I mean, everybody that we deal with, comes from a different background. And we've definitely done cases that, we have to respect the client's religions. And, we whenever we come into that type of situation, we like to learn about, the religion. And thankfully, we've gained some great contacts with a lot of the primary religions in the United States. And we like to include all of that in the museum. As far as, binding an object or containing the energy, we both kind of have our own ways of doing things. I mean,
put up walls and,
right.
And we envision good energy, absorbing the environment. That's something that we like to do also.
Yeah.
And we don't like, I think this is just personally to us because some museums love doing this. They love bringing in priests every week, which we 100% respect. We love that. It's just, I think we kind of believe that these objects come from everywhere. And personally, if we didn't believe in something 100%, why would we bring them into this museum? Because we're open to everything. And I kind of throw out the idea, who's to say that a priest of a certain religion coming in and blessing these objects would do anything to the African mask that was used in these rituals for deities? I mean, if there's a spirit attached to it, they may look at this and go, who's that man in a funny hat waving this cross? I don't understand any of this. So I think out of respect, we've just kind of done our own thing.
Yeah, we kind of do our own thing, and that's what's worked. And if someday it doesn't work, then I guess we have to look at some different options,
Get a different room for that one. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly.
There you go. So let me ask you guys this, because humans, many of us love to collect different things, and
Sure.
we've seen over the years, the idea of the haunted museum, of course, with the Warrens, John Zaffis. You guys are doing this now. There are other collectors out there, but I've seen just going through my Instagram feed, there are people, just kind of random people out there that are starting their own collection of haunted items, or they've gone to abandoned places and taken objects that they may think have maybe it has some sort of energy to it. What would be some advice that you would give to new and inspiring collectors that want to put their own little museum or collection together?
One, I'd like to start off by saying I love that you brought up the Warrens and Zappis and all these other collectors, because there are so many collectors out there. We are not the first. We are not the only, and we want to make sure that everybody knows about that. A lot of people collect. Just for new collectors, I guess just my advice, I don't know about you, my advice would be try to know as much as you can about how to care for these items physically, and make sure you have a proper environment for it, and kind of know what you're getting yourself into collecting these objects. It's I guess you could say, I like to say it's kind of like a dirty job. Somebody's got to do it. Just know what you're getting yourself into. Make sure that you understand how to protect yourself, how you feel comfortable in these situations, and you can't be afraid. You can't be afraid of these objects, because if you are afraid of an object you bring into your home, that object is starting to own you. So make sure that you're ready to put your foot down to some of these objects. That's me.
No, yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head for sure. Definitely be careful what you wish for. I mean, it's not for everybody, like Satori said. And if it is an avenue you want to explore, then absolutely go for it. I don't recommend, purchasing a haunted object on, eBay or something like that, because, most likely, it's a scam or something like that trying to.
But what if it comes with a certificate of authenticity?
You better give $10 more.
Moving my bobblehead away. Okay.
There you go.
So you're basically paranormal parents. Is that what you're saying? Like, if you don't behave, I'm going to put you in timeout.
Paranormal
you're doing?
person.
Yeah, well, yeah. And I guess there have been situations that have been like that, believe it or not.
We have had to separate them from the museum sometimes, because there has been a little bit of havoc in the museum with certain objects. We've come down after putting a new object in, and things are thrown around. We'll be sitting here on live streams, and things will just fall off shelves, and you'll see us look over there and go, stop it. And then we get up and put it back, and it stops for the rest of the night. It sounds absolutely crazy, but we are so
crazy.
Do you have cats there? I mean, because it's the same energy,
Maybe
we may have a ghost
maybe
cat.
spirit. I think I have a spirit skunk.
He does not. It's a
I
cat.
do.
And God, we fight about this on every live stream. He goes, "There's a spirit skunk in my house. There's some animal." I'm like, "What do you mean? It's a cat. I've seen it. It's a literal cat." And he'll debate this to me
it
until
has a
death.
tail like that.
It
A bushy tail.
A cat has a bushy.
No. Okay. Hold on. We have soapbox. We have 2 ghost cats here. And we have too many live cats here. Anyway, they have bushy tails. So it could be, yeah, it's not a skunk. It, could
Thank
be
you very much.
It could be a Maine Coon. They're huge.
Poor guy got hit outside and
Why
decided
would
to
the
wander.
skunk walk into the? It's a cat. Thank you, Victoria. It's a cat. Thank you very much.
We have tribbles here too. So
Mike,
there's always the old Looney Tune cartoons in which you had the cat that ended up with the painted stripe on it, and so Pepe Le Pew thought she was a skunk.
Maybe.
Oh,
yeah.
But she was really a cat.
It is a cat. It is 100% a cat.
If it has attitude, it's a cat.
It does.
Okay, it's a cat.
It is a cat.
Okay.
Because they'll judge you too. So watch out.
Oh, that's great.
That's great.
Oh my God.
So, what do you guys? We only have a few minutes left in the show. What about 6 minutes here? So, we'll give a few minutes here and let people talk about website, what you guys have coming up. I already put, and I'll put it up here again. the traveling exhibition, Basra, Connecticut. Am I saying that correctly?
Yep.
17th, 18th, and 19th.
Yep, that's the first stop there in Connecticut.
It's about half the antique store that we are kind of renovating into our museum for a weekend.
Right. Yes. Yeah. That location was featured on a episode of Ghost Nation that we did, and there's definitely activity there. And that's the first stop for the museum. We're doing a lot of events, especially in the fall, for that are sponsored by different libraries around the country, and a lot of them are virtual, so you don't have to live in the area to attend one of the presentations. You can live anywhere in the world, and if there's room on the sign-up sheet, you can sign up. Just go to the website, paranormalcouple.com, and click at the events page, and all the events are listed. The next events that we have coming up is 2 events. We're working with the Warren Museum. We're teaming up with them. They're going to bring a few of their objects. We're going to bring a few of our objects to the Conjuring House in Rhode Island. We're going to do that 2 weeks in a row.
Nice.
18th of this month and the 25th of this month.
And I love it so much. I'm so glad we get to work with other groups and collectors.
Yep. So those are the next 2 events that are on the top of my head that are coming up. But yeah,
all of our information is on the events tab of paranormalcouple.com.
Right. Or Facebook, the Paranormal Couples Haunted Museum. We're always updating that on information.
If you search up Paranormal Couple on anything, you will probably find us because it's the name we've been given on accident. So
That's what works and what people are familiar with you guys. So I got to ask you, okay, so you're teaming up with the Warren Museum. You're bringing objects to the Conjuring House, which is an absolutely fantastic location. With that in mind, what type of objects are you bringing to the Conjuring House?
So we're definitely trying to keep in the theme of what the whole event is about. So I think they're going to be doing a screening of the movie that recently came out, the 3rd Conjuring movie, and they're bringing a couple. They're bringing the dinosaur from the real case, I believe. Yeah, no, it's been put out there, and something else. I think a skull or something. I'm not really sure. So we're going to probably pick out some of the more
not darker or like necessarily super negative objects, just something that we feel may be fitting and may work together with that energy in the building. We don't really want to cause a stir of anything if we don't have to. But we're definitely looking over. Again, we have over 300 objects. We kind of have to sit there and go, will this one work? No, probably not. Maybe we'll have to do this one and kind of go through the whole.
Yes. So yeah, something that fits into the theme of that for sure. And we definitely have some stuff to choose from. Maybe something more from the ritualistic standpoint of things. Not so much with the history of the house. We're probably going to pick out something locally from that area that we've collected. Because we always like to do that wherever we're going, pick out something local that we've collected, but something, definitely in the theme of the movie for sure.
That sounds really cool.
I got to ask you, I know we only have a couple minutes left, but I got to ask you, what do you guys think of the Conjuring House? I've been there only once, but I thought it was absolutely amazing. But what do you guys think? I mean, I have my own theories as to what's going on there.
Yeah. It's definitely an interesting place. Definitely holds energy, and like I said, I think that living energy plays a huge role on the activity that happens there. I think the parents were that energy, and that flip that light switch on, and whatever happened to them, it may not ever happen again because that energy, the puzzle pieces just aren't fitting correctly for the location. There definitely still is energy there for sure, whether it's with the land or just the amazing history that the whole property has in that area. I definitely think that there could be some residual stuff. There's been reports of time slips and things like that happening.
We've been there a couple of times and had some interactions, but it was nothing negative on our end that we have interacted in that house with.
Right. Yeah. I've never experienced anything negative there, but there definitely is a feeling when you go to that house, and it's definitely a place that we've, thankfully frequented. And every time we go there, it kind of feels a little bit different, depending on the type of day or the season that you're there.
And the world knowing about it has even opened up the energy more. And I think more people going through this house has kind of made more energy.
Yes, I definitely think there's something there. I'll just say that for sure.
What do you think, Mike?
Well, I think, I covered this in my docuseries, The Shadow Dimension, but I think that well room, if you think about the way it's constructed, you have an open well with water in it. The walls are made of limestone, and they're capped with granite blocks. So it's a perfect little power play, and some of the bigger pieces of activity that happened in that house are basically straight up from that well room, the parlor, and then Andrea's old room at the top of the house. I mean, you can, it's like a pillar of energy right there. So.
Just like a vortex.
Yeah.
I never thought of that.
Because I think Andrea and Roger's bedroom is right above the well too, isn't it?
That's a really good theory, though. I like that's a really good idea. Now that I'm thinking about it, all the activity was in that pillar. See, you just blew my mind. You just blew my mind in 30 seconds. Now my mind is completely blown.
Well, we're going to have to end on that. So.
Thank you
but
for
one
that.
more time. Yeah, sure. One more time. Your website is paranormalcouple.com, and people can get the tickets for the traveling exhibition there. Yes?
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
Yes.
Yep, and more dates coming around the country. So, yeah.
Fantastic. Well, I hope I'm able to run into you guys one of these days. I'm sure it'll happen.
Cool. We'd love that.
I hope so.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us this evening, Satori and Cody. We'll definitely have to have you back. It was a fantastic conversation speaking with you guys.
Thank
Wonderful.
you very much.
Thank you.
Come to Texas.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. Bring it all to Texas.
It's not like I can't leave. There's boundaries.
All right.
Okay.
We'll come to you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chris.
All right. You guys have a good night. Take
Good
care.
night.
All right. That is Satori Hawes and Cody DesBiens. Absolutely fantastic having them on this evening. And, I love it. You have this young couple, like we were saying at the very beginning, the next generation paving the way for, the younger crowd. Because we have to pass it on to somebody, and they're eventually going to pass it on to somebody else as well. And so we just keep it going. Love it.
I like it. Yeah. A lot of the stigma and the fear is leaving, I think.
Yeah. So let's get to the shout outs. So, of course, I want to thank Alina down in the our chat moderator for feeding me the questions and keeping you guys in line down there.
Way to go, Alina.
So, yeah. So, where is, I need to make sure I'm on the right tab here. Here we go. All right.
Adam Tillery.
To the, we know Adam's lurking. Absolutely. Adam is always lurking, which is great. Thank you, Adam.
Do you think he lets his son watch? I mean, start him young.
Arthur?
Yeah. Does he
at this
watch our
point,
show?
probably. I mean, Arthur was playing tabletop board games the other day.
He's like a baby. I mean, he can't.
I know.
Always love it. Is he playing Stratego or something? Or
it looked fantasy based. I don't think it was like straight up D&D or whatever. But I don't know. Adam, can you tell us what Arthur was playing down there? And see, there's.
Is he an elf?
There he is.
Yeah.
There he is.
He's a dungeon
He's got
master.
the eyes down there.
Yeah. Roll those dice. Do they still do that? I mean,
Oh yeah.
Okay.
My kids just recently started getting. I think because of COVID, people started getting back into it again.
Yeah.
And so, that's my kids wanted all D&D stuff for Christmas this past year, and they're all in their 20s. So
Yeah.
it was kind of a big thing, and I love I love the beginning of Stranger Things, the first 5 minutes, because you got the kids playing D&D in the basement, in the early 80s, and Mike is the dungeon master, and it's like this. Because that's what I did in the early 80s, playing D&D with my friends. I was always the DM because, I told the stories and everything. And so it was like, I'm watching my childhood.
That's all we did was we played D&D. And then my daughter and her friends are starting to get games. I'm like, oh, yeah, I remember when I played.
Yeah. So, Adam, you gotta answer the question here. Are you teaching Arthur how to play D&D? All right, so let's get to the participants. We have, Andrew Cox is in the house. Andrew and his trucking gnomes. Betty Lange, Grand Old Folks, is in the house. Dee Santi, thank you very much for joining us this evening. Thank you guys for all your questions as well. There's Helen Espinoza. Thank you as always. There's Jill Nimchinsky. Thank you once again. N.A., thanks for joining us tonight. Nisaba, thank you as well. Pungai Fungi.
Fungi. Fun girl. Fungi, fun girl.
Yeah. Pungai Fun Girl. There you go. Robert Hanna and Stacy Comiskey. We'll roll back through here a little bit because we know that that always misses a few people for some reason.
Jennifer checked out. I saw that.
Yeah, Jennifer checked out a little bit early, which is fine. And Haunted Road Media's Fairy Queen, want to shout out to her. I didn't see her in the chat this evening, but she had a collapsed lung the other week, so we want to make sure we have thoughts and prayers out to her. There's EEQQ. Thanks for joining us. And yeah, see, there's Jennifer. Logan L., thanks for joining us tonight. And all right, I'm going to scroll back down here. And that will wrap it up. Okay, so real quick, for next week, let me put the banner up here. Next week we have Richard Doty on Area 51. So this is a real special treat. I met him at the Laughlin UFO Mega Conference. He's a fellow Air Force veteran. So he and I got together and we just started talking all old Air Force chat, but he, when he was with OSI, which was another part of his government career, was there at Area 51. So we're going to be talking Area 51 next week with Richard Doty. So that's going to be a real special treat.
He was actually at Area 51?
Yes.
I thought it didn't exist, but it does.
No, they admitted some years back now that it exists.
Oh.
They finally had to release that information because of Freedom of Information Act inquiry.
Ah, okay.
So, yep, it exists. He was there, and we're going to talk about that next week. So, that's going to be awesome. And then this week, for those that are members of the Connected Universe portal, instead of the Connecting the Universe interactive class being tomorrow on Wednesday, because I am part of another class starting tomorrow for the next couple of months, it's going to be held on Thursday, same time, 8 p.m. We're going to be talking about time travel in relation to all the stuff that we were talking about with Egypt and Stargates and all that stuff here recently. We're going to wrap time travel into all of that as well. So, okay. So Adam answered my question.
Okay.
If I can scroll up to, okay. So Arthur watches the show if he doesn't want to fall asleep when he's supposed to. So that's part one. Let me turn that off real quick. And then part two, it was a very popular Woodland Creature board game. Arthur already has the ABCs of the D&D book, read to him almost every day. That's awesome. I love it.
Aww.
Adam's such a great father.
He is.
So, yeah. And we got to shout out to Hannah as well as being a great mother. So.
Oh, yeah, that too.
All right, everybody. So that will do it for this evening. We will see everybody again next week. Richard Doty, and we'll see everybody that's a member of the Connected Universe on Thursday, 8 p.m. So have a great night, everybody.